you're not going to be in the next couple of places. I didn't even know the next place what it's called. It's Krishna Kundas. Oh, you're going to be done.
New Eka Chakra. Unfortunately, that was my hope that if you would.
The next couple of places. I didn't even know the next place what it's called. It's Krishna Kundas.
That was my hope that if you would go to Slovakia, that I would definitely come, but you chose the worst possible date. It's Prakrata Yatra.
Sorry about that. We had no choice actually. We have to make it for Panotsava.
Anyway, we're looking forward to your association sometime, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Vikramakeshi, Prabhu.
Yeah, we are a little slow with technology, but now we are. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Nice to be with you. We are very honored to be with you in Qatar. Thank you very much.
Vikrama Prabhu was speaking to us in Serbia recently, and his wife, the program there, and they were wanting to join this group, but he said, we're not qualified. That's why I was so bad. I'm terrible about writing back to people. He wrote and asked me, and I didn't write back to him. He thought, oh, we're not qualified. Your wife is telling me that you know everybody in the group, and you're describing all of them, you know, the infamous Leela Purushottam Prabhu, who's like...
Yeah, because when you finish, we are looking on YouTube. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, our camera is not working today, so we cannot join with camera, only with the sound.
Okay, it's nice hearing you guys. It's really nice. It's so nice to have you. I'm really, really delighted.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, thank you.
We'll go ahead and start then. Let's see here. Actually, I want to pull out this prayer to nothing that's talking. Just say a few verses. Gora Greganya Gana Gocha Goloru Hadam Gora Guditama Goyada Kopa Briksham Alagada Ratidam Yati Singha Gora Govinda Deshi Kavadam Satatam Namami Tama Adama Kichuna Bachila Jachia Dile Kakola Kahe Premananda Emona Goranga Ridhoya Dariya Bola Bhaja Goranga Kaha Goranga Laha Gorangera Namare Jai Jana Goranga Bhaje Se Hoyamara Pranare Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Yashaiva Padambuja Bhakti Labhya Prema-bhakti-candrika Padama Pumata Tasmai Jaganmangala Mangalaya Chaitanya Chandraya Namo Namaste Chaitanya Chandraya Namo Namaste Chaitanya Chandraya Namo Namaste Madgavirapi Gopala Srikriyat Kripaya Jadi Tadaiva Sambhaya Pitva Rishi Yustat Priya Janaha Shri Krishna Krishna Chaitanya Sasanatana Rupaka Gopala Raghunatha Brajabala Pahimam Vanchakopatarubhischa Kripa Sindhu Vyevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So offering this prayer Srila Narottam Das Thakur. It's composed by Vishnu Chakravarti. Shri Krishna Nama Amrita Varshi Vaktra Chandra Prabhadvasta Tamo Varaya Gauranga Deva Anucharaya Tasmai Namo Nama Shri Narottamaya. Again and again I offer my obeisances unto Srila Narottam Das Thakur. He is a true follower of Lord Gauranga Deva. The nectarian shower of the holy name of Krishna, radiating from the moon of his mouth, destroys the darkness of ignorance. So nice to have everybody back. Very nice to be here. Not so many devotees here today, but still that's okay. It's a little exhausting for us in Serbia. It was really, really intense. There was no internet connection for most of the day. And then we go back to our cottage in the evening. It'd be a connection there, but by that time we'd have a japa we had to take a bath, put Giriraj to rest. It was pretty intense, so that's why you didn't hear very much. But I think the devotees there, they're supposed to send us some link or something with some of the lectures and pictures and whatever. I'm just waiting for that, and I'll let you guys know when it happens. So let's go to our verse today. We're starting a new section. Which, see, first of all, there's different versions of Prema-bhakti-candrika, and I'm not talking about just in English, but also in Bengali. There's a little difference in the way sometimes the verses are numbered, sometimes the subheaders and things. We're following, in general, Ishwara Prabhu's edition, just for your Ishwara dasas. So this section is called Naishtika Bhajan, fixed devotional service. Apana bhajana patatahi habe anurata Istadeva stani lilagan. Nashtika bhajana tomare kahinu bhai Hanuman tahate praman. Oh dear brother, my mind. I really don't like this translation. We're going to rip it apart in a minute, but I'm going to go ahead and read it right now. Oh my dear brother, my mind, be continuously engaged in the path of devotional service and be attached to glorifying the pastimes of Sri Krishna and Vrindavan. This process of devotional service is known as steady devotional service. The prime example of this is Hanuman. So what I don't like about this, it's not a terrible translation, but there's a few things I'm not very thrilled about. Apana bhajana pata, even here in the word for word synonyms, it becomes clear. It's speaking about your bhajan, your path of bhajan. Jennifer, we all have our own path of bhajan, and it's different for everybody. It's different, even a little different, and for the sadhaks, and definitely for the siddhas, it's a little different. Tahi habi anurata. We should have attachment for that, be fixed in that thing. Istadeva stani lilagan. And we should worship that place of our Ishtadev. I think that's how they translated it here. Be attached to glorifying the pastimes of Sri Krishna and Vrindavan. Okay. Anyway, be attached to that place I like a little better of our Ishtadev. Go to that sthana, stay there. And Lila Gana, we should sing pastimes about the Lord. Nowhere, the two problems I have with this translation primarily. Number one, it doesn't bring out the point of apana bhajana pata, the importance of having your own bhajan. And the second point that I'm not so thrilled by in this translation is it says, be attached to glorifying the pastimes of Sri Krishna and Vrindavan. It doesn't directly say that. That's something the translators added. What it basically says is be attached to glorifying the pastimes of your Ishtadev. Now, there's certainly scope for embellishment here because Narottam Das Thakur's Ishtadev, who he's encouraging all of us to follow too, is Krishna and Vrindavan. So that's legal also. Naishtika Bhajana A. This is fixed bhajan. Tomara Kahinu Bhai. And he says, my dear brother, the example of this is Hanuman. Tahate Pramana. And then in the next verse, which we'll go on to, there's a shloka which Vishnu Chakravarti Thakur, he says that it's an old verse. That's all that's said. Anyway, this is a verse my Guru Maharaj used to quote sometimes. Very beautiful, simple Sanskrit. This is said to have been spoken by Hanuman. Srinate Janaki Nate Chabeda Paramatmani Tatapi Mama Sarvasvam Rama Kamalalochanaha. Although Sri Narayan, the husband of Lakshmi Devi, and Sri Ram, the husband of Sita Devi, are both the super soul, still the lotus-eyed Sri Ram is my all in all. My Guru Maharaj used to quote this verse sometimes. I remember once a devotee asked him, how should we treat the godbrothers of our Guru? And Guru Maharaj quoted this verse, Srinate Janaki Nate Chabeda Paramatmani, to indicate that we should give respect to both of them and understand that they're both disciples of Srila Prabhupada, they're both Guru Jana, but at the same time, Tatapi, at the same time, Tatapi Mama Sarvas, my everything, as Hanuman says, is Rama Kamala Lochana, is my Lord Ramachandra, is my Gurudev. So although in terms of Siddhanta there may not be any difference, in terms of our rasa, in terms of our relationship, there's a big difference. And as Narahari Sarkar points out in his Krishna Bhajan Amrita, if we don't distinguish between the dealings we have with our Gurudev and with other Vaishnavas, we'll fall down. Certainly we want to be respectful of senior Vaishnavas, and Narahari Sarkar encourages us to, according to the position of the person, Deho Nata Jata Jata, as Bhaktivinoda sings in one song, we give them respect. But the topmost respect we give to our Gurudev. Now at this point in our side discussion, this is not the main point of these verses, but in our side discussion, someone may question, and well, does that mean Siksha Guru or does that mean Diksha Guru? And as we've often quoted my Guru Maharaj, who gave such a beautiful answer, I think, when someone once asked him who was more prominent, the Siksha Guru or the Diksha Guru, and he replied very simply and soundly that whoever occupies your heart. So at the same time, we have an official relationship with our Diksha Guru. And I remember visiting the temple where Prabhupada took sannyas, the case of Jigaudiya Mutt in Mathura, and which is at that time the Acharya was Vaman Maharaj, who was the first initiate of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta, a friend of Srila Prabhupada, and one of the co-founders of the Gaudiya Vedanta Samiti. The other co-founders were Trivikram Maharaj, Narayan Maharaj, and our Srila Prabhupada. Prabhupada was one of the founders of that institution. And so we went to visit, and all the devotees there, every one of them, were all Siksha disciples of Bhaktivedanta Narayan Maharaj, but his photograph was not found on the altar. Rather, they had the photograph of Vaman Maharaj because he was their Diksha Guru. So there's that formality, especially with Archana and with stating who is my connection to the Parampara, my official connection, is our Diksha Guru. But as we see in the case of Raghunath Das Goswami, who was initiated by Yadunandan Acharya, he speaks about his Gurudev in several places, and it's very clear that's his Guru, and he gives respect to him. But at the same time, we understand that, as stated in Chaitanya Charitamrita, that Swarupa Raghu, he belongs to Swarup Damodar Goswami. And Swarup Damodar Goswami was his primary connection. But Swarup Damodar Goswami was not his mantra guru. Rather, that was Yadunandan Acharya. So there's many important principles here that Narottam Das Thakur is bringing out. This is certainly a little bit of a postgraduate discussion. It's not something just for brand new devotees who are just told you just go to Mangalarti, chant 16 rounds, read the books, just read all the books in general and do some service. But at a certain point in our spiritual life, we're going to naturally develop, we're going to naturally develop our own particular mood. And I say at a certain point, it's attractive. Many people who join Krishna consciousness movement, especially in America, the years that I joined, there were a lot of former hippies and strong individuals, because generally there's only strong individuals who can come to Krishna consciousness, because it's such a strange, socially it's such a strange thing, the way the devotees dress and their eating habits and their behavior and so many things. Common people don't relate to it at all. So for someone to join and become a devotee, generally they were very strong individuals. And sometimes when the devotees come, then they kind of surrender that individualism, and with the understanding, usually told to them by leaders, that you should all just wear the same kind of shoes and march in step and do what you're told, kind of thing. And it certainly is antiseptic and very neat to have a group of people like that. But it's really not ultimately conducive for bhakti. As we sometimes comment, the closest thing to art in spiritual life, or the closest thing to bhakti, let's say, in the material world, is art. Because the art and bhakti have many things in common. They have to be individual. And in art, it's not that you imitate someone else's music. George Harrison got in trouble with My Sweet Lord because the chords that he was playing were taken from another song. And it seemed like it was an unconscious thing that he did. It wasn't purposely done, but he was sued for that. And it's considered not to be proper art if you copy someone else. If you take someone else's style, that's not really art. Similarly, with bhakti, we all have to have our same way. We have our own individual path. We have many different friends. Can I post a YouTube link? Yeah, I'll do that here in just a second. We all have our own individualism, and that's an important thing. It's very, very important for bhakti. And again, it's not something which temples generally encourage young devotees, and it's not that the managers are super controlling demons for that reason. But young devotees really don't know very much even about who they are or anything. And that's one of the beautiful things we see about Krishna consciousness. One of the simple material things, material benefits of Krishna consciousness is that when people join, we're a little confused. I was a bhakti leader for some years in Los Angeles, and we comment on this sometimes, that when people would join the temple, and men, I would shave their head and put them in the bhakti program. And for many of them, you could see their face when they got shaved up. It was like a kind of identity crisis, because their identity was in their hair. And that's especially, it's true for everyone, it's true for men and women generally. We put so much identity in our hair, identity in our skin, identity in the way we dress, and now all of a sudden your hair is shaved off and you're wearing these sheets and things which you don't even know how to tie correctly, and it's a big crisis of identity. Now, sometimes we artificially, as new devotees, try to adopt some other identity, but it's not it's not generally a natural thing. But as we progress in Krishna consciousness, we'll understand ourselves both materially better and spiritually. Bhaktivinoda, in one place, he comments on the phrase Chaito Darpana Marjanam, the first verse of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's Shikshashtaka, by saying that the mirror of the heart is very dirty, and if you have a mirror that when you have a mirror that's covered not just with dust, but covered with greasy oil, It's really, really dirty. You may have to clean and clean and clean for some time before you can see anything. And as you clean, little by little, you can start to see something in the mirror. And at first, it's just a vague form because the mirror is so dirty. And that, Bhaktivinoda says, is our position within Varna and Ashram. We understand ourselves even better materially as we become purified. And we understand, what's the best kind of path for me to go on. So we all have our particular bhajan, and it's helpful if we stick to that and not try to imitate somebody else. There's a story I often tell about my Guru Maharaj, that when he gave me my Giriraj, he gave me certain instructions how to worship Giriraj. And later, and Gunjamala together, and later one of my godbrothers who also had Giriraj, also from Guru Maharaj, approached Guru Maharaj and said, Guru Maharaj, I really like the way Madhavananda does his worship, and I'd like to do that. And Guru Maharaj chastised him and said, no, I gave you a system and I gave him a system. So it's different for different devotees, and it should be. And that's why we need guru, we need some personal guidance. Now within the institution, sometimes in general, we kind of lump people in. To give you a good example, something traditional, which is a shocking example in our society, that is that traditionally the guru decides, between the disciple and he, the guru decides how many rounds the disciple should chant. But in our society, if you decide, well, my Gurudev told me I only need to chant 4 rounds a day, then the GBC will probably be calling your Guru Maharaj up and asking them to come, him or her, asking them to come to Mayapur for some inquisition to be checked out, because we all have to chant 16 rounds. But Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he recommended 4 rounds. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, although famously he wanted all of the disciples living in the temple to be chanting 64 rounds every day. He, speaking to, I've heard this from a number of his direct disciples. I had the good fortune of meeting, 6 or 8 different disciples of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta, and a few I had some fairly extensive association with. The majority of his disciples, he initiated into chanting 4 rounds a day. Not 16, not 32, not 64, but 4. But for the devotees in the temple, he wanted them to be constantly chanting. And it was considered that instead of this, till to this day in many Gaudiya mutts, that if someone's rendering service all day long, and they're constantly chanting while they're cooking, while they're cleaning the pots, while they're doing whatever, if they're constantly chanting, that equals 64 rounds. That was the concept. So in this verse, Narottam Das Thakur is encouraging us that if we want to go on the path of Prema-bhakti, we need to have our own bhajan. But that's something we don't want to advertise. And this is discussed in many different places. Jiva Goswami comments on Rupa Goswami's Ujjwal Nilamani, speaking about the word samoy. Samoy means, it's the general duties of an initiated disciple, samoy. But samoy means, in general, means an agreement, an oath, a promise, a conclusion. And those duties of the disciple, he's not supposed to speak those out loud. And in Hari Bhakti Vilas, there's a nice verse which Gopal Bhatta Goswami and Srila Sanatana Goswami have given. I'll go ahead and put this on the board here. Samantro no padistavyo bhaktavyascha nasamsadi Gopaniyam tata shastram rakshaniyam chadyuravat. That the guru, he tells the disciple, samantra no padistavyo, don't speak speak this to everyone. Don't reveal your mantra in a public assembly. Srila Prabhupada famously, he spoke sometimes about Goshtipurna and Ramanujacharya. Goshtipurna was one of the several Diksha Gurus of Ramanujacharya. It's a little astonishing that he had more than one mantra guru. In Chaitanya Charitamrita, we hear that we only have one Diksha Guru, but generally we have many Siksha Gurus. But Ramanuja had different mantras from different persons. It was unusual, but that may happen sometimes, and that's allowable. But it's not that we take the same mantra from more than one person. So Prabhupada tells a story about how Goshtipurna, when he gave this mantra to Ramanuja, he told him strictly, don't speak this to anyone, because anybody who hears this are going to get liberation. And so then Ramanuja, he left his Guru Maharaj and he went up and climbed on top of a temple and called for everybody in Sri Rangam and said, I want you all to repeat after me, and got them to repeat word for word the mantra. And Goshtipurna, his guru, was furious and started chastising him. And Ramanuja bowed his head and said, yes, Guru Maharaj, I know. I'll have to go to hell for doing this, but better I go to hell and all these other innocent people, they get liberation. I would rather sacrifice my own position so they get some benefit. And when Goshtipurna heard that, he was shocked and he said, oh, you're a greater devotee than I am. But still, the general principle is that we don't reveal that mantra to anyone, especially in a private assembly. Gopaniyam tata shasana. We keep that mantra secret, Gopaniyam, along with the Shastra, those Shastras like the Srimad Bhagavatam, it translates here, those Bhakti Shastras. Rakshaniyam Sariravat. Sharira means the body. Rakshaniyam means to protect. In the same way that we protect our body, we should also protect and keep private these things. It's not something that we want to share with everyone. Sometimes devotees are very eager to tell everybody how many rounds they chant. And we have one friend who used to do some service with Gopalji Publications. And she was very eager to tell everybody that she was chanting 1 lakh a day. And that's okay. Sometimes we treat our bhajan like preaching. And we think it's a good thing if I tell everybody how many rounds I'm chanting, what I'm doing, because that's going to encourage them. But the traditional conception is that more importantly, we should hide those things. We shouldn't advertise that. In Hari Bhakti Vilas, Sanatana Goswami quotes Samohana Tantra, which I wrote an article about this some years ago, this verse. I think it's in issue number 16 of our Krishna Katamrita Bindu magazine. Gopayad Devakamishtam Gopayad Gurumatmanaha Gopayad Chanijam Mantra Gopayan Nijamalikam. So he starts off by saying that Gopayad means to hide. Devatam Ishta, our Ishta Deva, we should hide. Now this is an important point, and it's very relevant for our discussion today on Prema-bhakti-candrika, because Narottam Das Thakur is speaking about how we have to follow our Ishtadeva. So first of all, what is an Ishtadeva? Ishta means our Ishvara, our Lord, and the Devata, he's my God. Deva means the God. So that personality is a person who's close to our heart. And in the same way that a man or a woman may wait for many years before they get married. We're just speaking with some friends about marriage. In the same way, it's a big decision. And you want to make sure this is really a person who's close to my heart that I can really dedicate myself to and keep a relationship, keep a pact, a promise with this person. So the same thing is there about Ishtadev. It requires some time. In the Harinam Chintamani, Bhaktivinoda Thakur says that Name Prasatita Hai Rupa Guna Karma. that it's something that will happen naturally and automatically. It's not something that we have to like. It's not that we go to the supermarket and we shop around. Who's going to be my Istadeva? Oh, I like this one over here. I like this picture. I like this deity. I know one devotee who thought forearms were really cool. And so they were worshiping Lord Vishnu with forearms, and that was their idea of their Istadeva. And maybe that is their Istadeva. But in general, that's something which will naturally arise. And Bhaktivinoda says, Name prasvatito hoy, rupa guna karma, that it will naturally arise in the heart. The form of Krishna that we're attached to. And it'll be something which will just naturally occur there. Gopayad Guru Atmanaha, we keep our Gurudev a secret. It's like Gurudev is our Atma, he's our soul, he's our everything. Gopayad Cha Nijam Mantra, the personal mantra that I've got. The same godbrother actually I mentioned before who wanted to imitate my personal worship of Govardhan. Also, in some of the early days, he told me about a mantra that our Guru Maharaj had given him. And he said, anyway, I can tell you this mantra. He said, it's okay because Gurudev didn't, it's an English mantra. It's not a Sanskrit mantra from Shastra, but it was something, a meditation kind of thing. A mantra saying the Guru Maharaj had told him to do. And so he said that thing to me. And later I mentioned it to Guru Maharaj. And Guru Maharaj became very angry with that devotee and chastised him and told him, I didn't tell you to tell this to everyone. I think the mantra, as I recall it, I didn't meditate on it very deeply because it wasn't for me, but it was something like offering obeisances to Matajis and saying, my dear mother, please don't disturb my mind, or something like that. And that was the personal mantra Guru Maharaj had given to him. Gopayan Nija Malikam. Your mala is something we keep secret. We keep our japa beads hidden in a cloth bag. Also our mala, meaning the counting of how many rounds we do a day, we keep that thing secret. We don't advertise that. And again, in Hari Bhakti Vilas, Yajnavalkya Smriti is quoted. I'll show you this verse. This is in the 17th Vilas of Hari Bhakti Vilas, which speaks something about japa. Yaksha Rakshasa Bhutani Siddha Vidyadhara Ganaha Haranti Prasabham Yasmat Tasmat Guptam Samacharet. That we keep our japa mala inside. Can everybody please, somebody's not muted. Who that is? Please mute yourselves. We keep our japa mala inside of our bead bag because it's said here that if you keep it outside, then the Yaksha Rakshasa Bhutani Siddha Vidyadhara Gana, these personalities, the different ghosts and Rakshasas and residents of Siddhalok and Vidyadharas, they may steal the benefit of our japa. So we want to keep that in our bead bag. And again, in another sense, we also keep that in our bead bag in the sense that we hide what we're doing because it's my personal bhajan. It's not meant just for everyone else. Again, in Hari Bhakti Vilas, there's many descriptions about the importance of hiding things in Hari Bhakti Vilas. I like this verse very much here. Swapne Vakshi Samaksham Va Ascharjam Atiharshadam Akasmad Yadi Jayita Na Chetavyam Gurur Vina. That if a disciple sees something, ascharja means astonishing, very amazing. He sees that in a swapna, in a dream, or maybe in some kind of vision, then he shouldn't speak that to anyone other than the Guru. And sometimes I tell a story about another one of my godbrothers who, I don't know if it has anything to do with his vision or not, but before he joined, he was heavily into psychedelic drugs. Anyway, one day he came to our Guru Maharaj and said, Guru Maharaj, I was chanting and I saw Lord Nrsingadev. And Guru Maharaj looked both ways and then leaned up to him and said, don't tell anyone. So whether the vision was a genuine vision or just his mental speculation, in one sense it's not important. These are things which should be hidden. We should have our own personal bhajan and not advertise that with everyone else, because it's the nature of friendship. The nature of a friendship is that you have certain things that you can keep private. And if you can't keep it private, then you spoil your friendship. If one of your friends tells you, oh, such and such girl likes such and such boy, don't tell anyone. And then if you run around telling everybody that, you've probably just lost a friend. So a friend is someone who can keep something confidential. And that's the nature of the guru-disciple relationship. The disciple is meant to keep things confidential. My Guru Maharaj once told me that one of the synonyms of sishya or disciple is chhatra. Chhatra means umbrella. And the function of the umbrella is to protect the person from rain. The function of the disciple is to protect Gurudev from criticism from outside people. If we learn something about Gurudev, that Gurudev, something that may be embarrassing for him or something, we shouldn't advertise that. Rather, we should keep that private. This is the nature of bhakti, and it's the very meaning of the word gopi. The word gopi, it says gopayatiti iti gopi. The word gopi comes from the same bijdhatu, the same word as gupta, which means to hide or seclude, keep something hidden away. Because the ladies, young ladies of Vrindavan, they keep their love very deep in their hearts, and they speak about their love only in a secluded place, known as gopis. In the 10th canto of the Bhagavatam, when the gopis speak about Giriraj Govardhan, they say, Hantaya Madhara Bala Haridasa Varyu. They say, oh, Hantayam, they're making a very great exclamation. Abala means the young girls who are not bala, they're not strong. Hantaya Madhara Bala Haridasa Varyu. Yad Rama Krishna Charana Spadasa Pramoda. They begin to speak about Haridasa Varyu, Giriraj Govardhan, and how Ram and Krishna, Balaram and Krishna, Yad Rama Krishna Charana Spadasha Pramoda. They're touching Giriraj at their lotus feet, and Giriraj becomes ecstatic. Now, what is the necessity of them saying the name of Balaram? These are the followers of Srimati Radharani, these gopis. Probably they're gopis in the line of Lalita Sakhi. Their mistress is Srimati Radharani, more so than Krishna. And what to speak of Balaram? So why are they saying Balaram? Two different meanings are given by our acharyas. One is that Rama means Radharaman. It's a name for Krishna. The other is they're saying Balaram, Ram Yadrama Krishna Charana Spadasha, because they want to keep their feelings hidden, even from the other gopis. So it's a very important principle that we should have our own bhajan, and we shouldn't speak about it with everyone else. This is one of the final instructions of Narottam Das Thakur. At the end of Prema-bhakti-candrika, there's a verse which Srila Bhaktisiddhanta often quoted, Apana bhajana kata na kahibe jata tata, that you shouldn't go around speaking about your bhajan just to anyone and everyone. That will be very, very detrimental. We shouldn't do that. We should be very, very careful. We should keep it close to our heart. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta, in one article in 1934, he said that we should not reveal our bhajan to others. And if we disregard this instruction of our previous acharyas, then there may be a permanent fall down from the realm of bhakti. It's very, very important. Rako prema hridaya bhariya. It said that you keep your love hidden in your heart. Gupate sadibe siddhi. That when we practice something secretly, gupate, sadive, city, then you get city, you get perfection in that. So it's a very, very important thing. It's repeatedly discussed, the need for secrecy, even in the Bible. In the Bible, it says that when you give charity, don't sound any trumpets. And if you give in charity with your right hand, your left hand shouldn't know what the right hand is doing, because we don't want to advertise those things. Advertising those things it's not appropriate for our relationship with the Lord. So this verse is speaking about how we have apana bhajan. We have our personal bhajan. Apana bhajan pata, we have our personal path of bhajan. And it's also speaking about Istadeva stani lila gana. And we should very carefully sing the glories of our Istadev. And that's something which, again, we may say, well, I don't know what is my Istadev. That's a very high thing for me. But we have instructions from our Gurudev. We have instructions from Srila Prabhupada, Shri Radha Govinda Premi Sadajena Basi, that we should recite these prayers every day to Tulsi Devi, praying that Shri Radha may always swim in the ocean of love of Radha Govinda. This is our desire. And Raghunath Das Goswami has given us in his Manasiksha 12 essential verses which describe everything. I'd like to share with you some today, the second and the fourth of those verses of Manasiksha, and we can meditate a little bit upon them. The dharmam na dharmam shruti gana niruptam kilukuru braje radha krishna prachura paricharyam ihatanu sachi sunum nandishvara patisutatve guruvaram mukunda preshtatve smara paramajashram nanumanaha. So these are instructions to the mind, mana, my dear mind. Nadarmam na dharmam shutigana niruptam kilakuru. Don't bother. Don't worry about all these activities of dharma and adharma, which are described in the Shrutis and the Vedic literatures. Krishna says, sarva dharma parityaka. Just give all that up. Instead of that, worrying about all that dharma and this and that, which is going to give you a big headache. And there's so many different descriptions. And I hear sometimes from devotees, for example, women should part their hair in the center. If they part their hair on the side, it's a sign of a prostitute. And they should not have dreadlocks. And ladies should have jewelry on like this and that. But those things are rules of social dharma. And they're good. We should understand and respect them. They're beneficial. And Srila Prabhupada also encouraged devotees in that. But that's not what we're taking shelter of. Those things are not going to give us shelter, and not everybody's going to be interested in following those particular small details. They're unimportant things. What's important, Bhaje Radha Krishna Prachura Paricharyam Ihatanu, that we should do Paricharya Rup, say we should serve Shri Radha and Krishna in Vrindavan, that we should understand Sachi Sunam Nandishvara Patisutatve Guruvadam, that Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is the son of Nanda Maharaj, and that Gurudev is Mukunda Preshtatve. Mukunda Preshta. He is very, very dear to Lord Mukunda. Then 2 verses later, he says something a little similar. Sadvarta Veshya Vishijamati Sarvasvahadanihi Kata Mukti Vyagya Nashrinu Kila Sarvat Magidanihi Api Chaktva Lakshmi Patiratim Hitovyom Manayanim Braje Radha Krishna Sarati Manido Tvam Bhajamanaha. Raghunath Das Goswami says you give up association with the asadvarta, association with non-devotees, is asat association. And what does that association mean? Bhaktivinoda Thakur says in other places that you may be a teacher in school. So you have to associate with students, you have to associate with faculty, you have to associate with other teachers, many of whom are not devotees, many of whom are not even vegetarians. And not only do you have to associate with them, but if you want to keep your job, you have to be nice to them. Right? You have to say, how are you doing? How's this and that? And of course, as devotees, it should be genuine. But Bhaktivinoda says that that type of association, we don't reveal our heart to them. It's just something external. At the same time, we want to be genuine in our dealings with them. We want to show affection to them, and that affection should be genuine. It's not just a show, an artificial show. It comes because we love everyone as a devotee of Krishna. And we love everyone because we look for the good qualities in everyone. And we see, oh, this person has such good qualities. They're a doctor, they're a teacher, they're a lawyer, they're this or that, even though they may have many bad qualities. But as a friend looks for good qualities in others and not the bad, Prabhupada says the qualification of a Vaishnava is that he's adosha darshi. They don't see fault in others. But if we see that someone is a non-devotee, then we're not intimate friends with such a person. Because that type of friendship, Vishuddha Matisaya Vasvahadani, we should avoid it. Because it'll steal away. Hadani means to lose. Hada means to steal or take. Hadani, it'll take away the love, the treasure in your heart, which is to serve Radha and Krishna. You'll start losing taste in bhajan if you start associating with people in that way. Kata mukti vyagra nashila kila sarvat magilani. And he says, don't listen to this mukti kata. These talks about liberation, which is just like a vyagra. Vyagra means a tiger who will eat you up. They'll devour you. They'll devour, how will they devour us? They'll devour our desire to have a personal relationship with Radha Krishna. And then coming to the point of our verse today, Api chaktva lakshmi patiratimito vyomanayanim. He said, even you should give up attachment to Lakshmi Pati. Who is Lakshmi Pati? The husband of Lakshmi Devi, Lord Narayan. Because if you go on that path, itivyomanayanim, it'll take you to Vaikuntha. Rather, Bhaje Radha Krishna Sarati Manido Tvam Bhajamanaha. We should worship, my dear mind, you worship Shri Shri Radha and Krishna, who they give the precious gem of love for themselves to their devotees. So that gem requires some price. Actually, it shouldn't be surprising to devotees that Narottam Das Thakur is speaking this way in Prema-bhakti-candrika, or that Raghunath Das Goswami is speaking this way in Manasiksha, that we should fix our mind on our Istadeva and not be attached to so many other forms of the Lord. That's pleasing to the Lord. When the Lord sees that you're attached to a particular form, all the other forms of the Lord, if you're attached to the form of Krishna, then Matsyakrama, Varaha, Nishringa, they'll all give their blessings to you. They'll all be very, very pleased that you're worshiping Krishna, especially Krishna, because Krishna is the source of all the different avatars. But the devotees are pleased when they see that a Vaishnava is attached to a particular form of the Lord. There's a conversation in Chaitanya Charitamrita wherein Rupa and Sanatana Goswami, they're explaining about how they tried to preach to Anupam. Anupam was their nephew, and Anupam was very, very attached to worshiping Lord Ramachandra. And Rupa and Sanatana Goswami are two Sakhi Manjaris of Radha and Krishna in the spiritual world, and they're not into Lord Ramachandra worship. And so they were trying to preach something to Anupam. And Rupa and Sanatana Goswamis are also very powerful preachers. And so they preached to Anupam and they said, look, what do you want to do this for? You should worship Krishna in Vrindavan. Krishna's the topmost. And you can't argue with Rupa and Sanatana Goswami, especially if you're their young nephew. He was convinced. And so he said, okay, I'll do that. But now it's late at night. I'll see you tomorrow morning. So he left and he came to see them the next morning, and there were big circles under his eyes because he didn't sleep the whole night. He was just crying the whole night, thinking, how can I give up worship of my Lord Ramachandra? And Rupa and Sanatana Goswami were very, very pleased to see how fixed he was in worshiping his particular form of the Lord. So Narottam Das Thakur is saying here, Istadeva Stani Lila Gana. We should be fixed in worshiping our particular form of the Lord. Sometimes devotees who are new to Hinduism, they're just growing up in the West, and they equate Krishna consciousness with Hinduism. And sometimes Srila Prabhupada, he said in public and other places, sometimes he would say that yes, this is a Hindu movement. Other times Srila Prabhupada said, we're not Hindus, and we're not interested in Hinduism. There's no such word in the Vedic literature as Hindu, etc., like that. So sometimes devotees, especially coming from the West, they may have some sentiment, I'll worship Lord Shiva this week, or I'll worship Indra, this or that. But Narottam Das Thakur is saying you focus on your Ishtadev. And if you do that, you may say, well, if I don't give respect to other forms of the Lord, and I don't give respect to different devatas, it's not good. Narottam Das Thakur Vishwanath in his commentary explains that no, Krishna will be more pleased. Those different manifestations of the Lord, like Matsya Kurma, Varaha, Nrsimha, etc., will be more pleased that you're fixing your mind and heart on one particular form of the Lord. So although it seems rather sectarian, it seems rather artificial, I know sometimes devotees also, they protest that sometimes young devotees, they artificially say, Prabhu, I'm just into Vrindavan and Radha Krishna, and I'm not into all these other things, and I won't go to look at Narayan because Raghunath Das Goswami says, Api Chakva Lakshmi Pati Vatim Vyom Nayanim. Don't even be attached to Lakshmi Narayan. I'm not going to go in that, I'm not going to go there. I won't have darshan. But Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is having darshan. And we know that Lord Ramachandra, that Matsya Kurma, Varaha, Nrsimha, etc., all these different avatars of the Lord, they're also manifestations of Krishna. And we should be eager to see them. We should be eager to have the darshan. But when we go before them, we pray that, oh, please manifest yourself as my Ishtadev, Vrindavan Bihari, Radhakanta Krishna. This is who we want to see. We should be so fixed, we should be like Hanuman. My Guru Maharaj used to tell a story sometimes that Krishna and Dwarka, once he called for Garuda, and he told Garuda that I want you to go and tell Hanuman that I'm calling him. And so he went to Rishyamukh, or wherever it was that Hanuman was staying at that time. And he found Hanuman there in Samadhi chanting Ram, 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 Ram. He loves the name of Lord Ram. And Garuda said, oh, excuse me, my dear brother, but Krishna, he wants to see you. Krishna's in Dwarka. Krishna wants to see you. And Hanuman just didn't even lift his head up. He was just Ram, 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 Ram. And Garuda spoke a little louder. Excuse me, Krishna, Supreme Personality of Godhead, he's calling for you in Dwarka. And this went on a few times until finally Hanuman became annoyed and just slapped him with his tail and knocked Garuda around. And Garuda became very angry, annoyed, and he flew back to Dwarka. And Krishna said, so where's Hanuman? And Garuda said, that monkey. That monkey is such a rascal. I told him that you were calling, and you know what he did to me? He just slapped me. And then Krishna asked him, what did you tell him? He said, well, I told him Krishna's calling for him. They're in Dwarka. And Krishna told him, no, Garuda, you don't know. Go back again and you tell Hanuman that Lord Ramachandra is calling for him. Yes. And Garuda went back and he told Hanuman, he said, Lord Ramachandra is calling for you. And Hanuman jumped up. Why didn't you tell me that? Huh? And he said, let's go. And Garuda said, yes, right in my back. I go as fast as the speed of the mind. I can take you there. And Hanuman said, that's too slow. And Hanuman immediately jumped. And Garuda went as fast as the speed of the mind. By the time Garuda arrived back in Dwarka, he found that Krishna was there. Krishna had manifested himself as Lord Ram. Balaram had manifested himself as Lakshman. And Rukmini had manifested herself as Sita. And there was Hanuman on his knees offering prayers to them. Hanuman said, you're too slow, Garuda. So this is the mood of Hanuman. And it's not the mood exactly of Narottam Das Thakur, but he's saying that we should be so fixed in our bhajan, just like Hanuman is fixed. Srinate Janaki Nate. Srinate means the Lord of Sri, the Lord of Lakshmi Devi, who's Lord Narayan. Janaki Nate. Janaki Nath means the Lord of Janaki Devi, Lord Ramachandra. Cha Beda Paramatmani. I know. Cha Abeda. There's no difference between them. They're both the Paramatma, but still Tatapi. Mama Sarvasvam Rama Kamala Lochanaha. Lord Ramachandra is my everything. I'd like to read to you a conversation, interesting conversation, that took place between Malati and Srila Prabhupada. Let me look down here on the bottom. I think this was in, Montreal, 14th of July, 1968. This must have been just a little before they went to London. And Malati's a very, very new devotee at that time. She says, Swamiji, I don't understand when you say that you worship Krishna or Vishnu. I don't understand if Krishna is Vishnu or Vishnu is Krishna. So she doesn't understand a lot. It's very simple. And Prabhupada said, yes, Krishna. There are several categories of living entities. Krishna is also a living entity. Vishnu is also a living entity. You are also a living entity. Lord Shiva is also a living entity. Every one of us. But there are categories. Just like in your Montreal city, there are hundreds of millions of people, but someone's status is higher than that of others. Similarly, Krishna is the original living entity, Govindam Adipurushan. Adipurushan means original. Aside from him, everything has expanded. And from him, everything has expanded. Eko Bahusham. He has expanded himself in many. Eko Bahusham is something Prabhupada used to oftentimes quote. Eko Bahusham. That Krishna Sham is one, Eko, but Bahu, he becomes many, he expands himself. So Prabhupada says, so some of them are in the Vishnu category. Vishnu category means they're almost equal to Krishna. It's estimated in Vishnu categories. They have 94% opulence of Krishna. And the next category is the Shiva category. Shiva category has 84% of all the opulence of Krishna. And the next category is the Brahma category. Brahma category means the living entities, when they're perfect, they can obtain 78% of the opulences of Krishna. So Krishna is 100%. Vishnu or Narayan is 94%. And Lord Shiva is 84%. And we, in our perfection, we are 78%. Is that clear? And Malati says, well, Prabhupada, I still don't understand why you would worship Vishnu and not Krishna. I don't understand why you'd go to Vishnu and not to Krishna if Krishna is higher. Prabhupada replies, why do you take care of your child? Why don't you take care of some other child? They're also children. Why don't you take care? Answer this. And Malati says, because this child was given to me. She had little Sarasvati, he was a baby at that time. Prabhupada says, you love him, that's all. Similarly, if you love Krishna, that's all right. If you love Vishnu, that's also all right. But you can't derive the same result by loving Krishna and Vishnu. Therefore, it is your selection whom you should love. Krishna is 100%, and Vishnu is 94%. So if you want to worship or love 94%, that's also almost Krishna. But Krishna is 100%. Purnam. Mata paratadam kinchid asti dhananjaya. In Bhagavad Gita, you'll find that he is the supreme. Aham savashipa bhavo mata sarvam pravartateti matva bhajanti mam buddhabhava samambitam. Krishna says, I am the origin of everything, including Brahma, Shiva, entities, everything, iti matva. So intelligent persons, if I have to love, why not love the greatest personality, Krishna, who's 100% perfect? That is your selection. If you select 94%, there's no harm. But the best thing is, why not 100%? Is that all right? Not yet clear? So for Malati, it was a little confusing in the beginning for such a new devotee. But as we progress, we want to be focused. Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, Vyavasayatmika buddhi ekeha kuru nandana, that the path of love is a path of being ekantic. Right? You marry someone, or some man says, I love you, but if he has another 6 girlfriends and he tells all of them, I love you, that's not cool. We don't accept that. Or if a woman does the same thing with many different men. Love means some exclusivity should be there. So Krishna appreciates that exclusivity. And in our case, we want to love Krishna in Vrindavan. We want to think of Krishna as Nandanandan, Yashodanandan Krishna. And we're not interested in Dwarkadish Krishna, or Mathureshwar Krishna, Krishna in Dwarka, Krishna in Mathura. We give our respects to them. But our 6 Goswamis, when they speak even about Krishna in Vrindavan, even Krishna in Dwarka, and how Krishna has a 4-armed form, that 4-armed form is not like an ordinary form. In Rupa Goswami's Laghu Bhagavatamrita, there's a very interesting verse. This is really quite a confidential subject. This is in 1.123 of Laghu Bhagavatamrita. Rupa Goswami writes, Kachchit chata bhujat vepi natva jet Krishna rupatam ata prakasha eva shat tasyasu dvi bhujashucha. That sometimes Krishna manifests a 4-armed form. And that 4-armed form is a prakash roop of his 2-armed form. But Baladi Vidyabhushan comments, Gopi Prabhu has translated this, should not the 4-handed form that Krishna showed to Rukmini when she fainted in fear, that he would leave her, shouldn't that be considered vilas since the shape is different? And this verse gives an answer. According to Medani Kosha, Rupa means nature of beauty. Thus Krishna Rupatam, not Tvajet, means he doesn't give up his nature of Krishna as the son of Mother Yashoda, even though, in other words, he may have 4 arms. But he still doesn't, he's a different form of the Lord than that 4-armed form in Vaikuntha. This is still Vijayanandan Krishna. And this is what we see in this Krishna Gopal deity in Jagannath Puri, and several of the deities there, very ancient deities before the time of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And the devotees previously were worshipping them as Radha Krishna. But it's a confidential thing which not everybody can understand. I'm sorry, I'm a little sleepy today. It's been a long journey the last week. I'm going to go ahead and stop there. And maybe we can just recite this verse again. Let's just paste it down here. These are our verses today. Apana bhajana patatahi Habe Anurata Istadeva Stane Lilagan. Nashtika Bhajana Tomare Kahinubai Hanuman Tahate Praman. My dear brother, my mind should be continuously engaged in the path of bhakti and be attached to glorifying the pastimes of Sri Krishna and Vrindavan. This process of devotional service is known as steady devotional service. Prime example of this is Hanuman. Again, I'm not so crazy about this translation. The part about worshiping Krishna and Vrindavan is allowable in the context, but what he doesn't bring out in the translation is apana bhajana pata. You have your own personal path of bhajan, and we should be fixed in that. And the example is of Hanuman. Hanuman says, Srinate Janaki Nate Chaveda Paramatmane Tatapi Mama Sarva Svam Rama Kamala Lochana. That although I know that Lord Narayan, the husband of Lakshmi Devi, and Lord Ramachandra, the husband of Sita, are Chabeda Paramatma, they're non-different, they're both the Paramatma, still Tatapi Mama Sarva Svam Rama Kamala Lochana. Lord Ramachandra is my everything. So this is the nature of love, that in our bhajan we want to fix our mind on a particular form of the Lord, and we want to be faithful to that, and not only giving up worship of the devatas, but we want to give up worship even of different forms of the Lord, and just focus on the particular form who we're attracted to in our heart. And if we do that, there's no offense in that, and we certainly shouldn't criticize or minimize other forms of the Lord, but rather all those other forms of the Lord will be pleased to see that we're becoming fixed like that. So I'm going to go ahead and stop there, and I'd like to ask devotees if they'd like to share anything. Let's see, Ujjwala Rasiga, you always have to run away, and now we've got you, I think. But she wrote earlier that she can't talk, so maybe she can't. If you want to write any comments or anything there, you can. It'd be great. I think she's in the hospital doing her work right now. And I don't know who else needs to go soon. Anapani Radha is here also. It's also very spectacular to get the valuable association of Anapani Radha and Pranahari Prabhu, I presume. Anapani, are you there? Would you like to share any thoughts for this?
Hare Krishna, please accept my humble obeisances. Can you hear me?
Yeah, can we get to see you also?
Well, it's not the best you want to see in the world for sure, but okay, maybe I show you Prana. That will be the better idea. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, Pranahari Prabhu. Is Anapani being good? She's causing trouble?
Yeah, we're helping her along, learn about how to live in America.
Not so easy to do, but a lot easier than living in Russia right now. I'll tell you that for sure.
Yeah.
Sorry, we joined like in a half class, I guess, and I didn't really feel so much attentive, not so attentively because we were packing. We have to leave now, but I just in general appreciate that topic, and I'm really, I want to hear your comment. Why Narottam Das Thakur, like he brings this topic. It's at the end of Prema-bhakti-candrika, right? Why he making it so important, so that the keep your bhajan is hidden, and your Istadeva hidden, very important. So although you brought in examples how devotees do it sometimes, like kind of for preaching, showing up the bhajan and Istadeva, but still, like I'm just still curious why Narottam Das Thakur he puts it at the end as a main topic.
Well, there's different reasons for that. First of all, that's love. Love means that you're affecting one person. If you're going to get married and you say, well, yeah, I really love you, my fiance, but I also have 4 or 5 other boyfriends, and they're also really good guys. That's not love. That's not a proper relationship. There's not going to be proper rasa there. So Narottam Das Thakur, in that sense, I think he's indicating that if we want to have rasa, we have to be one-pointed. Another reason, several reasons are there. For neophytes, this is there because we tend to give away all the benefits of our bhajan by advertising cheaply. But oh, I'm so advanced. I like Krishna Vrindavan. I like this. I like that. And telling everybody about that. That doesn't mean that we don't speak about Krishna and Vrindavan, but that we keep our if we have any dreams or any ecstatic revelations, we have some particular thing which really attracts our heart, we don't speak with everybody about that. And there's several reasons for that, one of which is pride. Another which is because sometimes people may not take it seriously and they may try to discourage you. They may even criticize. Or they may say, oh, no, you shouldn't do that. Why if you're in South India or in certain parts of North India, and you say we should worship Krishna, who's the son of Mother Yashoda and Vrindavan, some people will say, don't worship Krishna. You should worship Lord Ramachandra. Krishna had so many wives, and he wasn't a very good person because of that. But Lord Ramachandra, he's very pious. He's following all the rules and regulations. And they may disturb us. Or we may become a disturbance in the society in that way. That's the nature of love. When we have something close to our heart, we don't want to go and tell everybody. When someone can digest it at a certain point, pranahari, you have attachment for anapayani, but maybe at first, maybe you might have thought, maybe I shouldn't say anything to my parents because they may not appreciate her. And then it may be awkward for you. But then when you're confident that they're going to accept her, then you're happy and you'll say something because you want to protect the feelings in your heart. You want to protect anapayani, so you may keep that thing private. So feelings are like that, relationships are like that. And that's why it also says, Gopayad Gurumatmanaha, that we should hide our guru. You see with the situation on Facebook today, my God, everybody's just like they devour the gurus alive. And I don't like to say anything about Guru Maharaj, much less some contemporary Vaishnava that I like Bhakti-Vigyan Maharaj and Ranjan Maharaj. If I say something about them, then who knows? Everybody's going to jump in and say this person this and that person that, and it'll hurt my heart. So to protect my heart and protect those feelings and to protect someone else from some offense, I keep those things secret. Those are some of the reasons, and I'm sure Narottam has some other ones. Does that make some sense to you, Anapayani?
Yeah, sure. Thank you. That's such an important and wonderful point and main point. Basically, the love is the reason, and you want to protect what you love, who you love, and also your feelings towards the object of your worship and love. Yeah, that's it.
Living in India for so many years, coming from a gross American background, and having friends also from Australia who, if it's possible, maybe more even a grosser background than Americans. It's funny to see Americans and Australians. They talk about their relationships in public, and the most intimate details of their relationship they'll talk about, or even they'll criticize their husband or their wife in public. But in India, that's unheard of. Like people, you just don't do that. So that's an important thing. It's a very important thing if we want to keep that relationship with another person, materially or spiritually.
Thank you. You have some?
Pranahari Prabhu, how's everything going?
Good. I really appreciated the class, what I heard of it. I love this little pastime about Hanuman and Garuda. And I was thinking how subtle these instructions are, how to keep one's feelings private, and kind of that, that rasa, that flavor there of the relationship. It's very subtle. It's a very subtle factor. But I was also thinking it's kind of almost intuitive in a minor sense, like as all these examples of between man and woman and friends in this world, it's almost an intuitive thing that people who actually have genuine relationships, they do these things. keeping things private and become more, ekanta in their relationship. So, yeah, I just really enjoyed the discussion. And for myself, I was also contemplating how much more I need to sit with my bhajan in that mood. I need to be with my sadhana, not in such a, I would say, like dutiful mood is good, of course, but kind of there's a certain flavor where it's like, you don't tell anyone, hey, I'm going to go chant my japa. It's just like, you just go do it. And, practical life kind of necessitates some disclosure of what one does. But it's kind of nice when it's just between you and Krishna or you and Guru.
Yeah, Tate Krishna Bhaji Kodi Guru Sevan, probably the verse I quote more than any other. Our bhajan is our Guru Seva, our Guru Seva is our bhajan. And we have to come to the point where there's some confidential things where Gurudev can trust us. He can say something to us, something private. Maybe he says something about one of his godbrothers or something, and how frustrated he is with this one or that one. And that's a personal thing between them. We can't understand that. We're not qualified for that. But at the same time, if we go and speak about that in public, that would be very, very bad. And it'll hurt our relationship with our Gurudev. He's given us some private comments, and those are something we want to relish and treasure, even if they may seem like some social comment or something. Whatever it is, anything private from my Gurudev or from any Vaishnava, anyone I want to be friends with, I should treasure that comment and protect it and not embarrass the public. And therefore, by doing that, I'll please them. We'll have a relationship.
I like that point. You mentioned chhatra. The disciple also is termed chhatra,
umbrella, yeah.
like an umbrella. And I think that's like you were saying, Facebook culture nowadays. It's a very valuable service that one can meditate on in the most unique ways. Not just like, I don't know, before maybe in the Vedic age, it was like defeating in debate opponents of Guru's philosophy. I don't know exactly, or protecting from physical harm. Those are always still valid, but nowadays it's very interesting.
Yeah, I asked my Guru Maharaj, just a comment I often make, I once asked my Guru Maharaj what it means to make someone mum, to shut them up, which is our favorite thing to do. We want to defeat them and shut them up. I said, but sometimes we defeat them, they don't shut up. They just keep going on and on. I said, what does it mean? And my Guru Maharaj replied, it means you speak in such a way that they become mum. They can't say anything more. Otherwise, they continue to make offenses. And so there's so many people on Facebook I just don't want to say anything to because they're crazy. They have some mental illness, some spiritual illness. And if I go and defend somebody, some Vaishnava who's very dear to me, then all of a sudden everybody piles on top of you and they say all these terrible things, and it becomes very, very offensive. And even that Vaishnava that we're close to may say, why did you do that? It's unnecessary, and all these people saying all these bad things. It's better we just let it go sometimes. Just keep away from them. All right. Nice to see you guys. Where are you headed to next? Going back to...
He's going to fly to Govardhan in a few days, and we're going to drive to California to San Diego in a few days.
You'll fly out of San Diego?
Mm-hmm.
We will try to see Vaisheshika Prabhu also before we leave in San Jose. Let's see.
He's going to be in San Diego?
He'll be in San Jose.
That's quite a ways.
It's quite a ways, I know. We'll see how practical it is.
Mm-hmm.
Are you going to have time to swing by Yosemite, maybe?
Yeah, it depends. You know, if we could, I would.
Yeah, I'm sure. Anapayani, her eyes have become very big. It's pretty. You've probably seen pictures already, Anapayani. There's some. America's got some pretty cool things. You've seen what it does. All right, nice to see you guys. We really hope we can be there in Govardhan in Kartik time.
I really pray for that every day. Like, oh my God.
We want to be in Puri for Radhanath Maharaj's yatra also. And I'm supposed
when
to.
Is that?
Kartik. I don't know the dates. Right, and remind me. I could find out and let you know. That.
Okay.
You guys should use that if you can. It'd be great.
Sounds great.
Okay. Thank you both. Hare Krishna. Hey, Gorni Thai Prabhu, do you want to share anything? It's really getting late your time. I forgot. What time is it there now? It's 9 o'clock at night.
Yeah. Not so late. Thank you very much. It's a very nice topic. And very nicely presented by you. Yeah, and more I realize that relationships are not joke, not easy things. So, and we really need deep relationships, which may be very fortunate who has relationship with other persons, deep relationships. I just realized that just yesterday I spoke with my friend. We know each other maybe 20 years. And just yesterday I understood his inner mood. So long time I just I didn't know him. And that's very painful because then I see that how much trouble I caused to him, how patient he was, that still keeping the partnership relationship with me. Also, he understood that I don't understand him. So to know each other is it's not so easy. So we have to very appreciating if someone is our friend, a close relative, and then as you see, we don't discuss about bad things to others because the same thing will happen. It's very painful when someone is very close to us and then someone, that was. So thank you very much to mention that. And that's also this material world. So it's still in the material world. Can you imagine that how deep the relationships are in the spiritual world? I can't. I hope in one day. Yeah. So thank you very much.
When you were speaking, I was thinking about how you're saying you didn't know your friend. I was thinking how we don't know our guru. And good. Who's it wrote this here? Bhajan Gopal wrote the Radhanath Maharaj's dates, I think November 15th to 21st. Thank you. We don't know our guru. And we think we know our guru. We think we have some relationship. But we're so far away. We don't know our guru's swarup. We don't even know some of their private feelings and things. And we should be very, very careful in our relationships. Sometimes when the beginning of our relationship, and this may be a spiritual or material relationship, in the beginning of a relationship, we may have doubts about the other person. We may even become annoyed and think, why they did this or that? They were offensive to me or something. But sometimes we make mistakes. And when we have a doubt like that, it's really important. Narahari Sarkar says in his writings that we should go to our Gurudev and say, Gurudev, I don't understand why you were so harsh with this other devotee, why you spoke with him like that, why you dealt with him in this way. Please forgive me, Gurudev, it's not my position, but I don't understand. And don't speak about that publicly, because there's a great danger. If you speak about that publicly, your spiritual relationship or your material relationship, you're in danger of destroying that relationship. You may really hurt that person and offend them deeply. It's a very important thing to remember. We keep that confidence. Nice to see you, Gorni Thai Prabhu. You're very fortunate there. Krishna Chaitanya Maharaj, we were with him. I actually gave Bhagavatam class with him, the two of us, on the last day of the yatra in Serbia. And he, when I left, he was working out the house plans he's going to build in just down the street from where you're at right now, down from Rasamrita Kunja in Gora village. Hare Krishna. Hari Chandra, let's see, Anil Prabhu, would you like to share something? It's also getting late for you too, 9 o'clock at night. Are you there? Neil sometimes has to go to another room or something. If you can come on in a few minutes or whatever, that'd be great, Neil. Otherwise, we'll go ahead and go on. Let's see. Who else is here? Natalia, would you like to share something?
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Nice to see you.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Such a nice time with Sachinanda Maharaj, and we told him that we said, yeah, Natalia, she doesn't want to come. I didn't say that, no. But it was really, really wonderful, wonderful. We wish you.
And even without internet, everybody was focused.
Maharaj Sachinanda Maharaj told us that he's going to be at the summer camp, the Baltic summer camp also in Lithuania. So we'll see you there. All right.
Thank you very much. Very, very important.
It's really hard to hear you. I don't know why. I see you talking by
I
your
don't know
mouth.
why.
That's better.
Maybe I need to change this subject. Oh, I was thinking that Gopi, this word Gopi comes from the Gupta, hidden. This somehow opened to me something with they do it constantly, hiding everything, hiding the feelings and the service and seva, and it is like so natural and of course we need to try to do it to start without hiding it, without doing something personal for Krishna. We cannot do any service at all. I just have this feeling. And also, I remember that, like in any relationship, like if you don't have time for between two persons, and constantly there is someone, a third one person could be any other relative or even work or even worshipping, but so this relationship will not work if constantly there is someone else there. Not only between two, some relationship, but share it with someone else. So it is not personal relationship. Is it okay? Was it okay?
I don't know how much everybody understood. It was really difficult, but I could understand pretty much, I think, what you're saying about the gopis and how they're keeping their love hidden and how important it is in our relationship. You have a daughter, if you find out that she's got a crush on some boy, you go and tell that boy, or you post something about it on Facebook, your daughter, she may never talk to you again, isn't it? They become so very, very angry. It's a confidential thing. And we should honor those things. Whenever there's some secret, we should always feel like, oh, this is important. Let me respect this in this way. Thank you very much. Ujjwala Reska just commented something here too. She was in and out hearing with the workload here, but I'm so glad you got to be in the Sangha for at least some time. My prizes. Examples of Hanuman and Murari Gupta. I should be sensitive not only to others, Istadeva, but also Gurudev. Yes, I want to keep my relationship with my Guru akantic because I don't want anyone to minimize it or talk differently about my Sri Guru. Thanks so much and pranams to you, Prabhu. Yeah, sometimes too, devotees may even feel my Guru may not be an Uttamadhikari, this or that, but that's just in the same way my wife may not be perfect or my husband may not be perfect, but they're still my husband, it's still my Guru. And I shouldn't go and speak about bad things about them and tell other people those things, it would be very detrimental. Natalia is commenting, relationships don't work between there, more only between two, and some special times required. Sachinanda Maharaj, I remember when I first started to get to know him, when he would see me, I wouldn't see him for a year or 6 months or something, and he would say, Madhavananda, you're here, sit down, take prasadam. And he would really make a point out of spending time with me, personal time, because he told me directly he wanted to make some friendship, and that's required. Okay, I don't know who Radha is here, or Sid. Would you like to comment something, Radha? We know who Radha is.
Haribol.
Haribol, look at who this is. Mm-hmm. Oh my gosh, with the funny hat and everything. Hare Krishna. Radha Ji. And Sid is Sudhari, of course.
Yeah. I came 30 minutes late, so I didn't catch the whole thing. But you're speaking of Easter days and how we should hide our Easter Dave. But first, one has to know who the Easter Dave is. So I was wondering what the process is exactly. When does it, like, when is one qualified to, or when does the Easter Dave come into one's life, and like how's that process?
Yeah, it's something which should be natural. It's not just like in relationships. If you decide, yeah, it's time I should get married, and so you decide, I got to get married. So you just turn around and the first girl you see, hey, would you like to marry me? You know, it's probably not a good idea. It's something which naturally will take some time. You had to pick the right person. You want to make sure the charts work out right and do this and that. And take your time before you make a commitment like that. And similarly, we want to commit our heart. This is what Narottam Das Thakur was speaking about here, doing Naishtika Bhajan or effects Bhajan. We want to make some commitment in our Bhajan to our Ishtadev and to our Gurudev, because the Ishtadev is very much connected with our Gurudev. That's something which will come naturally, and it's not something which we can artificially just imitate. So we just follow the instructions. We just follow the process. And as we were speaking recently in Serbia about how a few weeks ago I was in Hungary, in Budapest, and I was walking down the street and I saw someone with a t-shirt, and it really struck me. I felt like Prabhupada was giving me an instruction to this t-shirt. T-shirt said, have faith in the process. I like that so much I posted it on Facebook. Have faith in the process. So we should have faith in the process. Sometimes we don't have so much faith in the management. We don't have so much faith in the institution. Sometimes we don't even have proper faith in Guru. But we should have faith in the process. Take shelter of the process and appreciate Gurudev, because Gurudev gave us the process. Appreciate the mission, the institution, because the mission is pushing the process. The foundation of our faith is in the process. And if we have firm faith in the process, then everything else will come. If we just take shelter of the process, then Krishna will reveal something in our heart will climb. And I really like Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and especially Mahaprabhu at Rath Yatra, or Mahaprabhu in the Gambhira, or I'm really attracted by Krishna in Vrindavan with Mother Yashoda, or I'm really attracted by Krishna with the Cowherd Boys, or with Radharani, or whatever, some particular form of the Lord, a particular Leela, our heart will become attracted. And then Rupa Goswami says that from that, then we'll take shelter of a particular associate of the Lord who worships in that way, because we want their feelings. And by worshiping that devotee, we'll get those feelings for ourselves. Is that okay? Is that helpful?
Yeah, that's nice.
You must have had a great adventure with your Guru Maharaj, huh?
Yeah, it was amazing. Intense, but it was super amazing, yeah.
I'm so very, very happy you got that opportunity, Prabhuji. That's a very valuable thing. You keep that close to your heart. for the rest of your life, that time you have with him. It's a very precious thing. So you're back in Ypsilanti now?
Yeah, I'm down at the farm.
And
right here for the summer.
Siddhahari
as well, yes.
Siddhahari didn't steal away all your service, did he?
There's plenty of service here. Plenty to go around.
Laying on top of the cows, doing all important things like that.
That's a universal service. Anyone can do it.
All right. It's good to see you again, Prabhuji. I hope to see you in India sometime.
Yeah.
While we're speaking bad about the vegetable, the raw vegetable eater, are you there?
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Yes, Prabhu, I'm here. Please accept my obeisances.
Pronouns to you.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. I was driving, that's what. Give me a second. Thank you, Prabhu. And yes, Prabhu, we're so happy to have Radhajivan back. He's a one-man army.
Cows. Do the cows remember him? Probably not. It's been too long.
I'm sure they appreciate him. Maybe they don't have the body yet to express, say his name. Prabhu, I really appreciate your class and this topic. In the class, you mentioned one thing which I was recently thinking about, this topic of chanting, the Japa Vrata, and you gave the example of Srila Prabhupada, how in Bhakti Siddhanta's Gaudiya, the number of rounds which they were asked by Bhakti Siddhanta was 4 rounds, whereas in the temple it was 64. But at the same time, I'm wondering, when Prabhupada came to the West, he first asked his initiated disciples to chant. He first asked his initiated disciples to chant 64 rounds, and then he brought it down. Now, one inference which somebody would draw would be this: that if somebody's asking somebody else to do some work, they must be themselves, as an acharya, be doing it. So one inference would be that he must be chanting 64 rounds at that time for him to ask other disciples of his disciples to do the same. Is that a wrong inference?
Well, we know that from several Srila Prabhupada's associates in India that he was chanting 1 lakh a day at Radha Damodar temple and as a householder sometimes before that. We also know from Shruta Kirti Prabhu, we were just watching it today, Prabhupada one day finished pulling down some beads, put his bead bag down, and said, "Now I finished my 16 rounds. I can do any damn thing I like." Ha ha ha. So when you say that, Prabhupada originally asked for 64 rounds, it makes me think about doing business with people in India. And when you're trying to settle a price with somebody in India, the businessman first of all says, "I want, 64,000 rupees." And oh my God, and finally get him down to 16,000 rupees. But he knows that if he would have started at 16,000, then he would have gone down to 2 or something like that. So it may have been something like that, Srila Prabhupada. And also, not just that, but there's a number of letters from Prabhupada that he wrote to Jamuna, I think there's one to Malati and some others, where Prabhupada said, "Why only 16? Or that they said Prabhupada on Ekadashi were chanting 25 rounds. Prabhupada said, "Why only 25? Why not 64? Prabhupada was always encouraging devotees to chant more. That will help us. So I think also it's very clear Srila Prabhupada wanted that. As far as Srila Bhaktisiddhanta's 4 rounds a day, this is you. It's a timer or something. That was mostly for householder devotees, that they chant 4 rounds a day. And devotees who were living in the mutt, it was 64 rounds. And we know, for example, Bhakti Pramod Puri Maharaj, there's some stories that he was strictly chanting 1 lakh a day every day. And once he went and said something to his Guru Maharaj that such and such person's not chanting like that. He said, "Well, you don't see them chanting, but I do. Well, Guru Maharaj, I'm with him all the time, except when he's in the bathroom. You don't see him chanting, but I do." And he was that service and chanting all the time meant that. Now, Srila Prabhupada, as an empowered acharya, knew exactly what we needed. And if Srila Prabhupada would have said something like that you can just do service all the time and it's not necessary for you to chant, then very likely devotees would stop chanting and then they would stop doing service also. And they would just be in big time Maya, just go completely away. So Prabhupada was very, very strict about 16 rounds. And I remember taking prasadam one year in Vrindavan for Janmashtami time with a friend of mine from the Gaudiya Mutt. I can't remember his name, but he's in New York. He was a cook there. Jai Gaur might have met him. I don't know. I think he's still a cook there now. He Indian body devotee. He's initiated by one of Prabhupada's godbrothers. And I took the opportunity to ask him, what do you like about ISKCON? What do you like about the Gaudiya Mutt? What's good and bad about each? And he immediately told me what he liked about ISKCON was 16 rounds. He says, we're in the Gaudiya Mutt, you can get away with practically anything. Prabhupada was very, very strict. And ISKCON's not always strict, but ISKCON in general is strict about that. And what he liked about the Gaudiya Mutt, he said, was that they respect the Siksha Guru as much, or sometimes even more, than the Diksha Guru. Whereas in ISKCON, the Diksha Guru is like the man, and the Siksha Guru is like, kind of a lower platform or something. All right?
Thank you, Babu. Thank you.
Nice to see Rajiv Gopal back with you also.
Thank you, bro. Thank you, sir.
All right, Chandra Prabhu, do you want to share anything? Nice to have you here. We miss you. You're not here all the time.
Hare Krishna. I was here, but I have not wrong connection, and therefore for me it was better.
I think last week or 2, you haven't been here very much.
I spent this time with my work. I work very hard, and I'm doing some improvement of my daily schedule, and I hope that it will be fine now.
Good. I don't want to give you a hard time. We just miss your association.
I'm also happy in this day that I have the opportunity to have the association with you and also with my noble classmates. I have nothing special. Really, I'm happy with you and all of you. And nothing more. Thank you.
Thank you very much. It's good to see you, Krishna. And let's see, Brajraj Gopal, would you like to share anything?
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. I think this was a very important class for me because just now we came back from a road trip to Alachua, where I went to take darshan of my Guru Maharaj. And inevitably, everybody was asking me, oh, is he your Guru? Is he your Guru? And it would feel really awkward to, should I say, should I not say, oh, they're a senior Vaishnava, is it okay? But I was telling everybody, I'm sorry, I cannot reveal this. I'm just here to take darshan of, his personality in Alachua. And so some people would get, what's wrong? Like, why you have to be so stuck up about it? But it was good to get like some shastric confirmation of what I was feeling. I really resonated with this point that it's like a relationship, and that relationship is very private. I remembered an example you told before. I think, like, you kissed a girl and you then go tell the whole world about it. Like, you're not going to get the trust of that girl anymore. And similarly, a relationship, whether it be with one's Istadeva or Guru, it's very, very special, very private. I guess, that was my reflection. The question that I have was on something that you shared about from Gaur Govind Maharaj, where you asked him about Shiksha or Diksha Guru, who's more important. And you mentioned, and he said that whoever occupies your heart, this thing that has been like a big question for me is, like, I know who my Diksha Guru is, but what is the, I guess, definition of a Shiksha Guru? like, is it that all the people who I have on my YouTube subscription list, or is it someone who like knows all the personal details of like all the struggles I've had, but maybe he's not on the platform to advise me about what my bhajan should be. So and then someone and then I've been reading about ragatmikas and raganuga bhakti recently from from Prema-bhakti-candrika and Bhakti Sandarbha. And so it came like this constant nagging question that I've had is like, how do I find that ragatmika? How do I find that person who I can follow? And yeah, yeah, it's been a question for me. So when you mentioned about Shiksha and Diksha Guru, I was wondering, whoever occupies your heart, is that like that ragatmika who is who's showing you your Istadeva, who's showing you your seva in the Nikunj Lila? Is that how to understand this?
Depends on the depth of your heart. And just like a small child goes swimming in a pool that's only 1 foot deep, whereas an adult goes in the deep end, which is 10 feet deep or something. So it depends on how deep our heart is, how much we realize that. And it depends on our nature, our quality things. What is our desire? Do we want to come close to someone? Some people, they just have an official relationship with their guru. That's okay. But usually Siksha Guru means someone who knows us very intimately and someone who can give us intimate advice. But if we're kind of a shallow person, we're a Bahir Mukjana in the language of Bhaktivinoda Thakur, then yeah, we may have a long list. Every devotee gives a Bhagavatam class is my Siksha Guru, every Brahman is my Siksha Guru, every Prabhupada disciple is my Siksha Guru. But if we think like that, also we may go mad, we may go crazy. Because Srinate Janake Nate Chabeda Paramatmani, Hanuman's saying that I give respect, but they're not the same. And I may go crazy because they don't understand. And then some of them won't understand me. I remember years ago after my Guru Maharaj left, I was visiting one sadhu and I went to ask him some question. Immediately he told me, you should put on saffron and you should take sannyas. And I wasn't necessarily like angry, but it was just really strange because my Guru Maharaj had told me the exact opposite a number of times. And this person didn't even know me. And I didn't continue to associate, even though that Vaishnava was a very exalted Vaishnava, a very elevated person. I didn't feel like they really knew me. So it depends on what we want, or what kind of relationship we want, what we want from that relationship. In general, with Siksha Guru, in our society, a lot of times, like you're kind of teasing perhaps, we tend to take it kind of in a shallow way. Whoever's on my YouTube list, whoever's giving class, whoever, that's my Siksha Guru, Prabhu. And I just want you to know, Prabhu, you're one of my Siksha Gurus. By the way, all this stuff. But in general, it's something which we should approach that person and say formally, would you please give me shelter? And my Guru Maharaj, even when someone would ask him that, he would tell them that you have to get a letter that you'll take instruction of your Siksha Guru over your Diksha Guru. Perhaps because my Guru Maharaj was a little controversial in ISKCON at that time, and there were some problems with things, and he wanted to avoid all the problems, so he made a rule like that someone can take Siksha of him, but then that should be even over their Diksha Guru. That depends on the person. I know Shivaram Maharaj, for example, when they have Siksha ceremonies, and there's devotees who want to take Siksha, and they sit in the fire sacrifice, and they make a promise, also just like a Diksha disciple would, or Harinam disciple. They make a promise. Narayan Maharaj also was doing like that, a number of different Vaishnavas. It's not traditional, it's not really necessary, but it's helpful in some ways. I'd like to make a quick comment, if I can, about this thing of Gopayad Guru Matmana, that we should hide our Guru. It doesn't mean that we deny our Guru. It just means that we should smell the air. and we should see what the fragrance is like. And if it's a bad smell, then maybe we don't say anything. Or we're just careful about what we say, because the people may criticize, and we don't want that. But it's not that we're ashamed of that. In Vedic culture, many people would ask, who is your guru? And in Hari Bhakti Vilas, it also, Sanatana Goswami gives some verse that when someone asks, who is your guru, you tell them. He said, but you bow your head, fold your hands, and you say, Shri Srimad, before the name of your guru. My Guru Dev is Shri Srimad, such, and you say the name of your guru. Otherwise, we don't say the name of our guru. And I understand your point that we shouldn't advertise that for some cheap fame and reputation with devotees. It's just unpleasant, and nor should devotees like someone or dislike someone just because who they're initiated by. Because who is my guru and who am I? Just because I'm initiated by someone doesn't mean I'm so close with them. We tend to judge people, though, based on initiation, and that's not right. Is that helpful?
Prabhuji, what about this idea of like finding a Shiksha Guru who has like this idea of Ragatmika? Like, is that too much to think about at this stage?
If we're searching for something, you have to go to the right place. If you want to marry a devotee girl, then you probably would not want to go to the Craigslist of some newspaper thing or something and just look for any girls there, but you want to go to a devotee website. Or probably more intelligently, you might approach your Guru Maharaj or some of your godbrothers and see if there's some girls they know or something like that. That would be even more intelligent. So we have to look in the right place. Depending on where we look, we're going to get certain results. So if we want a guru who's going to understand our heart, if we want a guru who's going to understand about Raganuga Bhakti, then where do we look? We have to go inside of our heart. We have to talk to Krishna, because Krishna knows that. Krishna's in the heart, and Krishna can reveal that. And if we do it with anything external, then we may get an external result. But when we're looking in the heart, I know for myself, at one point in my life, I was really crying for Guru. I'd been initiated before in ISKCON, and my Guru fell down and went away. And for 7 years, I couldn't accept anyone. And then Krishna gave me some big kicks in my personal life, very heavy kicks. And I was crying. I started going to Prabhupada's quarters every day in Los Angeles and just crying and praying, Prabhupada, please send me someone. No one was there in the room. I just prayed by myself, please send me someone. And then when I met my Guru Maharaj, I knew immediately Prabhupada sent him. So we should cry and look in the right place. If we look in the wrong place, we just look for some institutional authority or something, then we'll get that, but we may not get what we want. Does that make sense?
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Krishna. And how about our guest star today here, Vikramakeshri Prabhu and Manish Mataji? You want to share anything? Yeah, I know your camera's not working.
Yes, camera is not working, but we have just sound. We tried to open the camera, but it doesn't go today.
Sound is very good, though. It's good.
Okay. So it's Manisha here. Hare Krishna to everyone. I'm so glad to be here with you. I wanted to share my impression about one point you mentioned in today's class. It is about how it is association with the non-devotees is having a bad effect on our spiritual life. And before, I was not aware of that, and I would very easily get into non-devotee association, and that was one of the facts that also affected my spiritual life very seriously. So now what I see is that when I see non-devotees, I'm a little bit, little bit afraid, because I'm aware of this effect it had in the past. So, yeah. Do you have some more?
Yeah, I have a little reflection about that. You know, when you say that, I personally don't feel so much afraid of the non-devotees. A lot of times I'm friendly with them, yeah, but then I don't associate very much with them because my life is different. I'm giving classes and writing, and I don't have that much chance to associate. If I see someone, it's usually at the market or in the park or something, and it's easy to be friendly and nice. But what I am afraid of is associating with certain devotees. I'm more afraid of associating with certain devotees than I am with certain non-devotees, because the non-devotees are easy. You see the way they're dressed, the way they talk, they're very crude, they're not very subtle, they're atheistic or this or that. They're easy to be careful with. But with devotees, someone who's dressed in a devotional way, it's easy to let my guard down and associate with them. And we were having a talk. We had, I think it was breakfast that day together, maybe lunch in Serbia with you, about you were saying how you're associating with some different groups and how you're having different experiences in different places. In some groups, you mentioned one that they're really heavy about ladies not wearing saris and men having beards and things. And you have to pick your association very carefully. Satyananda Maharaj some years ago in Germany, Goloka Dham, at the end of the festival, we went to spend a little time with him. And I mentioned to him that Maharaj, I really want to be a team member. I really love working with a team. And I do. And Satyananda Maharaj kind of shook his head, nodded his head, and acknowledged what I said. And then he looked at me and he said, but we should be careful what team we belong to. And that really set me back a little bit, because it's a fact. There's so many different teams. And if I'm sentimental and just want to be part of every team, then probably I'm going to get a big headache. So this year, at the end of the program in Serbia recently, I was again speaking with Maharaj, and I said, Maharaj, some years ago, Sadhu told me I should be careful what team I belong to. And I said, I just feel really happy to be part of this team and being here. I really like Maharaj's mood. I like Krishna Chaitanya Maharaj's mood. For myself, they're very broad-minded. They're very thoughtful. They're very accepting of devotees. They're not very critical and heavy. And for me, that's just more natural. So that's my thought for you, that be careful who we associate with. And sometimes the non-devotees, in one sense, are safer than the devotees because the non-devotees, we're expecting them to do something crazy, to smoke some marijuana, drink something, eat something bad. But the devotees, if they start doing something, then it's more of a shock to us, and it hurts. It's easier to be influenced by them. Is that helpful, Manisha?
Yes, thank you very much.
Thank you. Vikrama Prabhu, do you have anything?
Well, I just wanted to thank you for this kata. I don't have any special questions, just this conversation between Malati and Prabhupada was very sweet. Somehow, this made me the biggest impact. How Srila Prabhupada is fixed on Krishna, you can see through this conversation. And also he's very humble. He's saying like Vishnu is also good and Narayan, but I am giving you mathematical, how to say, information that Krishna is the best choice, like he is 10%. So this was somehow sweet.
Yeah, I also really, I thought it was very sweet. Prabhupada was saying, if you like Vishnu, that's okay, but why not Krishna?
Yes.
Prabhupada's not forcing them. And that's such a very, very important thing. Sometimes with babies, as I often comment, you have to tell them, don't drink bleach, don't do this, don't do that, because they're a baby. But ultimately, you want them to grow up and be an independent thinker. Not that they have to phone you up. Mom, is it okay if I drink Coca-Cola, or if I drink this? You don't want them asking you questions about every silly thing. They should learn to think for themselves. So with new devotees, out of love, we want to protect them. But sometimes we continue with that, and it starts coming to the point where even with older devotees, we want to push a certain dress code on them, or this thing or that thing, and they're an older devotee. It's just not appropriate.
Yeah. Yes. Thank you, and looking forward to next kata.
Okay, thank you, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
To have you, a special guest today.
Thank you.
Let's see. Jai Gore. Oh my gosh, we almost missed Jai Gore. Any reflections from you, Jai Gore?
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Yeah, I really like the kata. I was thinking that perhaps this is a little short-sighted. Can you hear me, Ova?
Yeah.
Okay.
Slight echo, but it's okay.
Okay. Perhaps it's a little short-sighted, but I was kind of thinking, how is it that we can have any other Ishtadev in our, because our conception comes from Guru, and we're in this particular Gaudiya Guru line, and we're supposed to be Rupanugas. So I'm kind of I'm curious how there can be anything else that's coming in than what's being given by Rupa Goswami, Raghunath Das Goswami.
That's a controversial question, and there's a lot of scholars who have different opinions about it. I can share a few thoughts about it. First of all, some people say that our Ishtadev for everyone is Radha Krishna, because that's what Mahaprabhu came to give. And if you're not getting that Narpita Chiryam Churat Kudi, if you're not getting that thing, then you're not really a follower of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. But on the other hand, the very end of Kavi Karnapur's Chaitanya Chandrodaya Natakam, thank you, Krishna Kura, we hear about how Mahaprabhu is telling Advaitacharya that no matter what rasa you're in, no matter who your Ishtadev is, I have something for you. This movement has something for everyone. It has something for Murari Gupta. It has something for Anupam. We're both into Lord Ramachandra. And they have a position in two different places then. So it's kind of like, we could give an example, I don't know if it's the best example, but like a mother duck who's sitting on eggs to hatch the eggs. Now there may be different eggs. Some of them may be duck eggs, some of them might be an eagle egg, some might be a snake egg. There may be so many different types of personalities there. So Gurudev is that personality, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta, who says that, who relates to everyone in all the different rasas. And he can encourage them. In general, although we as Gaudiya Vaishnavas, we say there's 5 rasas, 4 primary rasas, we reject Shanta ras. But there's 4 rasas. In general, you practically can't give any examples of devotees, of charyas in our line who are in, I can think of one who's in Vatsalya Priti, and who's in Sakya Ras. I can think of a few. But according to Fakir Mohan Prabhu, who did some research on different Gaudiya lines, even those Sakya Ras lines, they also have some understanding of Manjari Bhav and of Radha Krishna and Radharani. They have a special appreciation for Radharani. So it's not like just that, yeah, I think I'm going to be a cowherd boy and I just want to hang out with them cowherd boys, and get a cowboy hat and be a cowherd boy. It's not like some people may sentimentally think, but it's still our Shri Radha Govinda Premi Sadajena Basi. Even if someone somehow has that Sakya attitude, they'll still see Radha and Krishna as the most worshipful lords. Is that helpful?
Yeah.
Interesting topic, though.
I thought it was quite interesting. There's also that part in Banquet Separation. Ramesh says, he said Gorni Tai, all of their followers are Saki Manjaris. That's something I've always thought was an interesting point. And then another thing related to that, we just came back from California, and we visited. I visited the LA temple for the first time. So I was kind of I was wondering if you had any insight about why Rukmini Dwarkadish. This Rukmini, she's Chandravali.
You remind me, I wrote an article about that. Kind of an article, it was a letter. There was a sannyasi, godbrother of my Guru Maharaj, who had gone to some Gaudiya Mutt, and he was making some kind of disparaging comments. How is this Rukmini Dwarkadish stuff? We want Radha Krishna, we don't want Krishna with and how is that Rukmini Dwarkadish? She's got a flute, and it's really Prabhupada actually addressed him as Radha Govinda when he first installed the deities of Rukmini Dwarkanath, the small deities, but he also oftentimes addressed them as Rukmini Dwarkadish. And since you're a little well read, I can just say two words: Lalita Madhav. Guru Maharaj, when my Guru Maharaj was there in New Dwarka, he gave a talk about Rukmini Dwarkadish and Lalita Madhav, and what that whole thing meant. And this is kind of what I was telling the sannyasi, Gaudiya Mutt, very senior sannyasi, and I read him and gave him a whole bunch of different pramanas and things, establishing really this is Radha Krishna, but the external names are Rukmini Dwarkadish, and he became completely mum. He couldn't argue with it. I was satisfied. So if you remind.
Yeah, I'd like to read it. I mean, in that case, wouldn't it be Satyabhama Dwarkadish or like?
Yeah, that might be also. That's another thing. But Rukmini is also a name for Radharani. That's part of the point. In the Radha Sahasranam, one of her names is Rukmini, and Rukmini is her expansion and the whole thing. So if we see a certain Ishtadev, we see Krishna. We go to a temple of Lord Ramachandra, Bhaktivinoda says we should see my Ishtadev Krishna. Then what to speak in this particular case? We see Radha Govinda, but the particular thing, maybe for preaching, Rukmini Dwarkadish is not so hard to me. What's really hard, even, in Delhi, Radha Parthasarathi, that's pretty far. That's even worse than that. Radha London Ishwara, Radha Paris Ishwara. That's like, whoa. But Srila Prabhupada was a genius. He's a preacher. And his point is that Radha Krishna are everywhere. And why not? Why not in London and in Paris? And Krishna is the supreme controller of Paris and London. And yes, in terms of Siddhanta, in terms of Rasa Siddhanta, it's not correct. But in another sense, it is correct. Srila Prabhupada is doing it as a preaching thing. That's my comments. Is that helpful?
I like that. Yes, Prabhu. One
So
quick thing.
to see you with Roy Ram Prabhu doing kirtan.
Yeah.
Really
I'm so blessed.
Like, if you stay there the rest of your life, you just do kirtan the rest of your life with that kind of mood. It's so ecstatic, so good.
Krishna.
That hope is too.
Yeah, well, definitely. That's my hope as well. We were staying with this devotee. I just want to quickly mention, I don't know if you know him, but he's serving some really amazing deities. His name is Akinchanani Thai Prabhu, and his family lineage. I thought you'd be interested. I made a recording and some pictures. He's got some deities, the deity Mahaprabhu that was worshipped by Narahari Sarkar, and there's deities of Radha Gopinath that were worshipped by Srivas Thakur's father. He's saying that they were in Srivas Thakur's home and all this really cool stuff. California, of all places. Yeah.
Yeah, I saw photos of those deities. Amazing deities, so beautiful. So beautiful.
I made a recording. I thought you'd be interested. It's like a 50-minute recording, him talking about his family lineage and the history of the deities, because they came in his family. He's a descendant of Lord Nityananda, really far out.
That's good. Yeah, I should get some photos of those deities too and add them to my slideshow thing.
Yeah.
Regular program. But the deities like you should send me.
I will.
Okay. Thank you very much, Guruji. And now we get to hear from His Grace, Lila Purushottam Prabhu, summarize everything, correct all of our mistakes, and say something completely brilliant. With no pressure, go ahead.
Always create such a nice, embarrassing atmosphere. Yeah, actually, Jay Gora has stolen my question, the first one. But I was thinking, like, it shouldn't be a big concern with being clear on Istadeva, with receiving the mantra diksha from the Gurudev. It might be the question of revealing the personal relationship with him and rasa and like that. That's like another part of the discussion. But if we receive our diksha mantras, especially like Gopal mantra, then what's the question of Ishtadev? We don't discuss like, is it Nishingadev, is it this one, that one? No, we received our diksha mantra, and that's the sambandha that we received. That's the relationship. So that was just my thoughts on that topic.
I also really like your written comment here too, that we should ask the pujaris what mantra they're worshiping those deities with. Just like with Jagannath's worship with Krishna mantra. He's worshipped with Krishna mantra. That says everything right there. And Rukmini Dwarkadish, 100%, unless somebody has some strange thing they're doing which is not authorized, we know the mantras they're using. It's all Radha Krishna. And so, okay. All right. Thank you all very much. I don't know what's going to happen.
I still have a few things, Prabhu. I still have a few things to ask, actually.
I'm sorry, I thought you were finished. Go ahead. In trouble with Krishna is chastising me.
I would like to ask, because you've been quite like strong about that point of individuality of our bhajan, even mentioning like not being fully satisfied with the translation. Then I would like to be much more clear on the terminology, actually, because very often I believe, and I probably can identify with that for myself also, that we very often misplace the bhajan with the sadhana. And in that sense, very often, you know, we would have a tendency to, oh, that's my individual bhajan, and we create disturbance for other devotees, like, oh, Prabhupada prescribed specific, say, bhajan pranali, or the you know, like the what do we do? And anything else is deviation, and then we have the certain enthusiastic devotees preaching against everyone's individuality, and so where's the mistake? What makes the trouble? Like, how do we understand this difference between the bhajan and sadhana, or, you know, like, because if I would be like thinking about it, then sadhana would for me mean, like, mostly it would address the external performance of devotional activities, like Navaviha Bhakti. And bhajan would be, let's say, the internal experience gained by it. And
someone may be doing Raganuga sadhana also. Because sadhana in that sense really means just some regulated activities. But I appreciate your distinction you're making, and I agree with it, that within our society, we could call, you know, attending the morning program, attending the Sunday feast program, chanting the 16 rounds, you know, in a public way that people know and doing, following four regulated principles, reading the right books. That's a kind of sadhana in a social sense that I'm following in our spiritual society. But then I may have my own personal bhajan. I should have my own personal bhajan also. But that's not something we talk about because, as you're pointing out, a lot of devotees, they're not mature enough. I look at it as a kind of love.
Mm-hmm.
That, many of these devotees, they're taught to protect new people and young devotees, to protect them from deviations and things. And we've seen a lot of sometimes young devotees want to know about Raganuga Bhakti, and it's their second visit to the temple. And not only do they want to know about it, but how do I practice it, Prabhu? And is it okay for me to wear a sari or whatever? They get some weird ideas, and you had no, and that's genuine. I accept that concern, but the problem is, like a parent who wants to protect the children, if they never let the children grow up, that's another kind of problem. They're over suffocated. They call them helicopter parents or something in America. They're just trying to control every little thing about their children. They drive their children completely crazy. The children also have to grow up too. And as a society, oftentimes we're not mature enough for that. And so I find dealing with the external authorities, I just have no problem. I bow my head and say, you are the man. You are in charge. I bow my head to you. I give all respect to you. And it makes them feel good. And I speak like that in the public way. And I have no problem with that. They are. But I don't really want to be a big part of that public thing personally. And I have my own private thing, which I just don't talk to them about. And if you do talk with them, sometimes you'll be surprised. Some of those guys will say, actually, I also do some little secret thing. I'll tell you an example. One of the biggest temples in India, where they preach very heavily about everybody just following the same routines and everybody doing the same stuff. And the temple president there, I'm a little bit his friend. And I've gone to his room, and then I read Hindi a little in Bengali, and I see what he's reading. He's got on his shelf. There's Lalita Madhav, there's Vidagdha Madhav, there's Ujjwala Nilamani, there's this and that. And he doesn't speak about those things in public, but he's got his hidden side. So I find that actually when we become a little close to someone, even sometimes these so-called real square, formal, institutional kind of people, they also have a private side too. They like to go for walks in the forest anyway, and maybe when they're walking in the forest, they like to sing a certain song or whatever. They have certain things they like to do that make them inspired, which is a little different. And sometimes they feel a little guilty about it or private about it, and that's cool. But I don't want to share with them if they're going to cause me headaches. And I've seen it so many. I tell the story sometimes. There's a couple of friends of ours in a very big ISKCON temple who they have a little group, and they started reading Govinda Lilamrita and Ujjwala Nilamani and some different things. And they really got excited. This is good stuff. It's good stuff, isn't it? We look for it. It's good stuff. Yeah. You start tasting that. It's really sweet stuff. And they got really excited. So someone asked them to give the Bhagavatam class. And so then they started quoting Govinda Lilamrita, Ujjwala Nilamani in the class. And surprise, surprise, that was the last class they asked him to give. And they banned him after that. Well, and they can be angry, and I can understand their frustration with those neophyte managers and stuff. But I think it's their fault. Why are you so shallow? You don't understand that the Bhagavatam in the class in the temple is really for the new babies, for the community to all stick together. And you have this nice sangha, that you're doing something private, and now you're leaking it out. You're in effect telling other people about it, and you're going to get in trouble, and it's going to cause you a headache. Just be quiet about it. That's my humble thought.
So the conclusion would be that the bhajan is private sadhana, or
yeah. And we want to be careful. You know, we've also, you've been around so long, Leela, you know, you've seen so many sentimental devotees who want to, you know, practice Raganuga Bhakti because it's cool or whatever. I just don't think it's really necessary. Just read the books, read certain books of certain people, do the same bhajan you've always been given, and at a certain point, Name Prasatita Hoy Rupa Guna Karma, it's going to blossom, and rag will come. How can there be Raganuga Bhakti if there's no rag? Then it's just jara anuga. We're just following something material, some speculation or something. It's not Raganuga Bhakti. We don't have to read, but we should read those books. Prabhupada said we should. Prabhupada said we should read Krishna Bhavanamrita, and you know what that book is like. In Krishna book, he says that. But we don't do that in public. Sachinanda Maharaj, I don't want to get him in trouble in this public recording, but he was reading Govinda Lilamrita to the devotees, all the devotees at the Serbia camp. I thought it was really cool. Yeah, but he wasn't reading anything like too erotic or anything like that.
Yeah.
But it was, you know, separation, looking for each other, and some things. Very, very poetic and very beautiful. But he was very open about it. This is this book, Govinda Lilamrita. And I was a little taken aback. Maharaj, but he's there with mostly his disciples in an intimate kind of way. But we know he would get a lot of flack. He would get a lot of criticism from certain circles.
We've got many verses in Chaitanya Charitamrita from Govinda.
Yeah. Certain places in Czech, they would be a little excited about it if he said, "You don't do that."
Yeah, thank you. That's wonderful. Wonderful, like harmonization of the thing. Also, I just want to mention that I was really enthused by the Lagu Bhagavatamrita quote. I really like that point that what makes the difference is the mood, not exactly the form, but the mood. That even Krishna may show up the four arms, but if he still keeps his mood as Krishna, then he still is the category of Krishna.
Because there are pastimes we read it in Ujjwal Nilamani and in Bhakti Ratnakar Chaitanya Charitamrita about Krishna manifesting four arms before the gopis. But that's not Lord Narayan.
Yeah.
It looks like him, but it's not. I'm also embarrassing somebody else here too right now, Prema-bhakti-candrika Prabhu and Manisha Mataji, so everybody can see their smiling faces. They know all the personal things about you, Leela Purushottam Prabhu, and how you're a troublemaker and Okay, so why don't we go ahead and stop there then? And next week, Krishna Kun and I will be in Lithuania.
Next week will be just fine.
Yeah, and it should be just fine. We should have a good internet connection there, and we'll be online and see everybody. So everybody's all welcome. I think I'm just going to go ahead, Vikram Akeshri Prabhu and Mataji. I'm going to go ahead and add you. We have a WhatsApp group, which I really don't like to add devotees to very much because I like to keep it really sweet. But you guys are good, I know. And it's easier for me too. Then you'll keep informed about the classes there. That's what it's for. And it's also discussion, but it's not too much of a burden, I don't think. There's not a whole lot of spam that goes through there or whatever. Some nice discussions and questions like that. Okay. So, who is it? Anil Prabhu, you want to say something? I thought we lost you. I'm just going to bring everybody up here.
Am I audible?
Yeah, you're kind of going.
I'm audible?
You're kind of going in and out, but you are audible.
Okay. Yeah, I'm always having problem with it. The location of house makes it difficult. So I had like a question, like you said, just like we should hide the good.
Now we lost you, Prabhuji. I think he has something about hiding the guru or something. Anil, you still there?
Hare
Hare Krishna. Prabhuji, maybe the easiest thing is you just write it on our WhatsApp group, okay? We'll continue there. A little difficult here. It's just so nice to see everybody. This is the whole reason I like to do this. It's just really, but Leela Purushottam Prabhu sometimes comments, it'd be really nice if we could all come together and take prasadam and just sit down together. That's what's really good. Nice to see everybody here. Thank you all very much. Srila Narottam Das Thakur ki, Srila Prabhupada ki, Gaur Premanandi Hari Hari Bol, Vancha Kalpatarubhishcha, Kripa Sindhu Bhyevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo, Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha.